Violent Soho, I want to ask you about their record post March 13th.
Yeah, it was in the thick of it. Yeah.
How did you change your marketing strategy or your expectations of the success of that record on the lead up to that release?
Well, I can't speak too much to it as someone that's not too involved in the day-to-day of that band, but Nick Yates and his team in our Sydney office, alongside Johan and Blaze and everyone at IOU, obviously pivoted very quickly to be able to make that album the album that it became. Obviously being a number one Australian album during COVID is a huge achievement. But yeah, they went very digital. Like for example, the night the record came out, they hosted a listening party, which kind of almost reflected like an old sort of TV-esque show, like an old, like, not quite Danos Direct, but it was like selling a product in front of like a TV audience. But yeah, they've been capitalizing on the fact that a lot of billboards are quite well priced at the moment.
Yes.
If you go on their social media, you'll be able to see that there's a lot of their billboards around town. They also partner with Spotify to do some great promotions, which put a billboard in Mansfield in Queensland, which is their hometown. So yeah, look, without going into too much detail, like they basically just moved very, very digital, which, as you and I were discussing when we caught up the other day, like, there's that old saying, the obstacle is the way, being that, we were kind of heading in this direction anyway. And maybe for various reasons, whether it's legacy or whether it's some element of romance around certain types of marketing. But I think that ultimately this is forcing us to go where everything was heading anyway, which is digital, and almost getting to the point where I think we should have been there already, but the point where that word isn't even a thing, where it's just marketing, not digital marketing.
And obviously there's flooding digital media now with, like you mentioned, the listening party Violent Soho did, live performances. There's just so much content of bands living online, connecting with their fans, which is really smart and absolutely what all these bands should be doing. Do you have a concern that potentially, though, this is now just giving Zuckerberg and Google and all these people a lot more leverage and a lot more value to their companies without giving anything in return?
I think like that's one way of looking at it, obviously. I think that those sorts of ideas and those attitudes have been existent for a long time. I think that, companies like YouTube have moved very quickly to support some really great initiatives online. As far as video premiering and stay at home and all that sort of stuff, I think that we've had a number of really successful campaigns across Vance Joy, Ocean Alley, Tash Sultana, with incredible support. So I definitely see what you mean by that. But I think if we're concerned about that now, we should have been concerned about that before. I think that's slightly the nature of the beast. I think the really interesting conversation is, where does this all end up as far as like, depending how long this goes on, and almost regardless of how long this goes on, I think people are starting to realize that staying at home can actually be quite fun. So like, I'm going to play Scrabble with my mum and dad tomorrow night.
Is that how the CEO of the biggest independent, label outside of the big four spends his ISO?
Yeah, that's it. Thursday night
That is
Scrabble.
rock and roll.
But yeah, I think that like we saw what the Untitled group team did on the weekend. They reached 500,000 people doing a virtual dance party. Like, there's some really interesting things that are coming here. We're going to be doing one of our American clients, Dashboard Confessional. We're about to start releasing a series of his albums on vinyl. We're going to do ticketed live events where the ticketing goes to charity. But once you're inside the screen, you're going to be able to buy exclusive product, exclusive vinyl, exclusive T-shirts. So there's some really interesting things that are going to evolve. And I think maybe obviously a lot of people, me included, me very excited to go out. Can't wait to go to Splendor and to go to the corner hotel and even just go to the pub and have dinner. But there is an element of I think a bunch of things that happen and that we experiment with over this time are going to stick around. And I think we're challenged right now by not being able to ticket an event in the real world. But I think if we can figure out how to ticket it digitally and create that experience, and maybe it's about working with brands or whether it's working with, whatever it is, I think that there's some huge opportunities that are going to come from this.